Hey, welcome back. This is Blended Thoughts. My name is Valeria.
And I'm Justenia. Thanks for tuning with us again. We're
Yeah.
excited to be back.
Yeah, and before we start, we just wanted to take the time to thank everyone that has been watching the podcast, listening to the podcast. So thank you for the support.
Yes, thank you. Really appreciate it. And we hope you like it. And if there's any subjects you ever want us to talk about, let us know. But today we have a really interesting subject that sometimes is really controversial. And I think our culture plays a big role in our opinions about it. And that's money and relationships, romantic relationships.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a little bit about how we grew up with our relationship with money and how we think about it now. So, like, when it comes to you seeing your mom and her husband or your mom and dad growing up in money, like, who handled what? How did it work?
Okay, I think like for my perspective, it's a little different. It's not only cultural, but also like life experiences. I grew up in with a single mom most of my life. And then later on in life, my mom got remarried, and then there's when I kind of like saw the struggles, because in the beginning it was her money, her choice, and nobody told her what to do with it. You know, she was in charge of the household. She was in charge of everything. To be honest, like that early in age, I didn't really think about budgeting or money or how much thing cost. I was aware of not spending too much because, you know, I knew my mom was a single mom and she was working hard to provide and all of that.
Right.
So when I grew up and then my mom got remarried, it was a change because now there was two people in the household.
And she married an American.
An American.
Which plays a role in. Do you think that changed anything? Do you think it mattered or no?
I don't know. I think what changed was that moving here, my mom left like I don't know how to say it, from being in charge of everything, her independence, to now depending on somebody else.
Yeah, she was financially dependent on this new person, like in all aspects.
Exactly.
So she didn't work.
No, like she used to work in Mexico all the time. Once we moved here, she stopped working because she became a house mom. She was taking care of my brother.
Stay-at-home mom.
So there, it made her dependable on her husband.
Okay.
For everything.
So she would ask him for money?
Mm-hmm.
That's like, I don't know why, but that's like such a pet peeve of mine. Like, I can't imagine being like, oh, can you give me $5 so I can buy myself a Coke? Like, ugh.
And that's what I noticed. It brings problems to the relationship.
Right.
You know, my mom was a stay-at-home mom. She didn't have money because she was not working, so she had to ask.
Him. Oh,
you know, like
that like hurts my heart. I can't. I'm so independent that I could not imagine. So you grew up watching her depend on a man for money in all aspects.
So when I saw that, I was like, F that. That's not gonna happen to me. So I think like my mentality is get your own thing, figure it out, work for the things that you want.
Yep.
So you don't have to ask anybody else.
Right. Well, there's two avenues that you can take growing up like that. Either you repeat the cycle, so you become your mom and depend on a man, or you're like the avenue you chose, and you're like, no, I'm not doing that. For me, it was not exactly the same, but both of my parents worked my whole life. However, my mom is great at saving. She always has been. My dad is a spender. Like, he buys the dumbest stuff. Always has. And I would see my mom work so hard and never get ahead because he would always be spending it on dumb stuff. She always worked. She always made money, but all the money went into one account.
Okay.
All the money went into their joint account. Always. And since I moved here moved to South Dakota when I was young, they didn't know the language. I was very aware of finances from a very early age because I had to do all the transactions for them. Like, I knew how much money my parents had in the bank. I knew how everything worked, fortunately and unfortunately at the same time. So I always wanted to make sure I was very independent. I've always been very independent, especially financially. But I was like, I just, it's almost like my mom would want to buy something, and this is what I don't understand. Or I don't agree with. I make my own money. I want to buy something and I have to ask you for permission?
Exactly.
No.
I was going to ask you that because if you have an account that's for both of you,
Yeah.
it's like, why am I going to ask you if if my money is also in that account?
Right.
So I think it creates like a
It's tension.
struggle.
It's good and bad. It's bad because of that, but at the same time, if I'm working my butt off, making, let's say, more money than my husband, and then he goes into our joint account and buys like a $500 Xbox, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Yeah.
Like, what? So for me, ever since I was young, I was like, I will always have my own money, and not just my own money, my own account.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that really shaped me. I saw my parents struggle a lot because of their joint money. It was like, you spend too much. Why'd you buy this? You're always buying stupid stuff. And it was like, I don't want to go through that. So as soon as I got into a relationship, I was like, I have my account and you have your account.
Mm-hmm.
And now Jose and I, we each have our separate accounts. And then we have our joint account, our house account, where all bills go get paid out of it. How do you do? How does it work in your relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think money is something that we talk a lot about.
You and Mike?
Me and Mike. Yeah,
really?
Because I feel like
you don't want to. You're invading his privacy.
Exactly. It's like, you know how much you have and how much you spend, and you're good with your money. And same with me.
But you're getting married.
So I think that's going to be different, and that we're going to have this conversation. Because also, if we decide to have kids, that's another thing.
I know.
So
I was a lot like how you are. Like, Jose and I would talk about money, but not like, how much do you make? How much money do you have in your account?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how much, right now, I don't know how much he has in his account, and he doesn't know how much I have in my account, and that works for us. It doesn't, like, obviously I need to know if you're broke and you don't have any money. Like, that's a big deal.
Do you have any debt?
yeah, that's another thing that couples don't talk about. Yeah. And that actually brings up another good point. Debt in relationships and marriage. I am so, let me not say against. I would rather not, even with a husband, co-sign anything. I know that sounds really not marriage type, but there's a few reasons why. Like, if I buy a car, I don't want him to co-sign. If he buys a car, I don't want to co-sign. For two reasons. One, you never know what the future holds. Everything might be great now, but life happens. Shit happens. What if you break up? Then you're stuck with that debt. And then the other reason is, God forbid you go through a financial hardship, both of your credit is screwed. Yeah. Instead of like, okay, if I got the car and I can't pay it, my credit is screwed, but we still have his that we can work on. I just think if you can avoid it, do it.
Yeah.
And another thing, I don't agree. Again, these are our personal opinions.
Exactly.
This is our life experiences. Yeah. Buying a house together, to me, it doesn't make sense for the same reasons I just said. You're tying up your debt into two people. I actually have friends and know of people that they both bought the house together when one could have been approved by themselves. Right. But they're like, oh no, we're married, we're together. They went through financial hardship and now they're both screwed. Yeah. When if let's say she only bought the house by herself, went through the financial hardship, then he could have bought a house later under his credit. But
yeah, I mean, I just think that money is a struggle not because you don't trust your partner. Yeah. But because maybe in my case, because I saw the problems that it created. Right. And like having problems because of money and you're not giving me enough or whatever. It's a subject that I'm like, I'm not even going to discuss it. What's yours, and what's mine is mine, But then...
Oh, I'm going to throw a curveball for you. Are you ready?
But then, look, what's yours, what's mine is mine, and whatever you want to give me, it's because you want to, not because a paper says you have to.
How do you feel about prenups?
I don't know. And you mentioned that to me, and you said, like, oh, you're going to have to talk about this with Mike and whatever.
It's very uncomfortable.
I don't know. I don't know how to go about it because always our money situation has been, like, separate.
I think he'll bring it up because he's very Americanized. That's an American thing. And honestly, it should be okay to talk about. It shouldn't be a big deal. I'm all for prenups. All for it. I don't understand how some men and women are like, if you love me, you'll sign it. You won't make me sign a prenup. Well, if you love me, you'll sign my prenup. Like,
yeah, I wouldn't get offended because
you would sign it.
I would sign it because I know what's his is his. He's worked hard for his money, and I don't want him to have to give me something that he doesn't feel like giving me,
or you didn't earn,
or I didn't earn, and vice versa.
Right. I think if whatever you came into the marriage should belong to each of you, and then what you grew together in the marriage maybe should be split. I mean, prenups, you can make your own rules and stuff, but that's a very American thing. Hispanic culture, there's no prenup for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part, unless you're very wealthy and your families are like, we're signing a prenup.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, and you know, you mentioned kids, like I'm having a kid, and I'm like, how are we gonna handle like expenses? Like, we're very fair. I like to think I'm a very fair person. I've always been. I was royally screwed in my previous relationship, like financially. Thankfully I wasn't that stupid. I was stupid, but not that stupid. Like, I am owed a lot of money. If you're watching, you can send me a check.
Go fund me. Go fund me.
Yeah, no, but I'm owed a lot of money, and I know I'm never gonna get that back, and that's okay. But I learned, and I think sometimes I'm really strict. I'm like, okay, you need to like, because I worked we've worked so hard for everything we have. We both came to this country with literally the clothes on our backs. Nothing has been handed.
Exactly.
So I'm so protective of my money. And also, like, I'm very conservative a lot of times.
Yeah.
I mean, in Hispanic culture, honestly, all income is disposable income. Like, all money you get in, let's spend it.
You spend it, yeah.
We don't have a big saving culture.
It's a culture, and it's something that you don't learn at school.
No.
You know, they don't teach you about budgeting. They don't teach you about, you know, managing your money. And I think that's a struggle that my mom had and that I saw. And that's why it makes me so... I'm very careful with my expenses.
Yes, you are.
And
I've watched you.
You know, like, I know how much I have. I know how much I can spend. And what I don't need to spend, I don't spend it.
Yeah.
Because my mom was the other way around.
Yeah.
She was like, I have money, and she was like, whoop, bawling.
Oh, yeah.
And then she would struggle.
I know people that will get paid, and they're like, oh, I got paid this much money. Let's go eat at Burns Steakhouse. I'm like...
Yeah. I mean, it's okay once in a while.
No, but they spend, like, their electricity money on, like, a restaurant. And then I'm like... And then I think this is what irks me, is... Even if you have financial literacy or not, if you know your electricity is due in 10 days, why are you spending that money? But again, you know, unfortunately, we're not taught enough about money. A lot of the money lessons I've learned have been like hitting my head against the wall and be like, oh, we're not going to do it this way.
Yeah.
But I think our culture plays a big role, especially when it comes to women. Now things are changing, thankfully. But... you know, the man controls the money. The man brings in the money, brings in the bacon, and then disperses it. And I was like, I can bring my own bacon.
Yeah. One of the things that I mentioned to you earlier is, like, once somebody gets married, the women, if they are stay-home moms, you know, it's really hard for them to go back into the workplace.
That's true.
You know, and that's another struggle that I think females sometimes face.
Yes.
Because, you know, you want to be able to take care of your kid, and then when it's time, it's like, you haven't been working for 1-2 years, and then...
Sometimes the whole kid's life, and then that man leaves you.
Yeah, and
then
then
you're on the streets because you have no work experience for the past 15 years. All the money was in his. That's why I always think you should have a secret bank account. Mine's not secret because it's my regular bank account since we don't share it. But if you are in a relationship where, not necessarily forced, but where you both have decided that you just have one joint account, get you a secret bank account. I'm serious. And start, like, stashing money away. You can be with the most amazing Prince Charming. Prince Charming can cheat. Prince Charming can hit you. You never know. And you don't want to be stuck in a relationship you don't want to be in.
And they leave and they don't care, even if you have kids. Now, like the kid situation, it's very sensitive to me.
Yeah.
Because I've seen really like unbelievable things that parents do. So, not because you have a kid, the guy is gonna provide.
No.
Sometimes it's a war.
I know.
You know, and it's really hard because and I think about this with Mike. You know, like what's yours and what's mine. I wouldn't fight you for anything unless I have a kid and you're not providing.
Right.
So.
Right. That's another thing. Again, I'm not a mom yet. I mean, I'm a mom with a baby in my belly, but not like I don't understand. No, this is another subject, but how women let men get away without paying child support. Yeah. Oh, I don't need him. It's not about you. It's about that kid.
Exactly.
And his responsibility. You're literally letting him get away scotch-free. Like, he was part of this.
Exactly.
Even if you don't need it, that child could benefit from that extra, let's say $50, $100.
Exactly.
Like, you could buy him, instead of buying regular food that you can afford, you could buy him organic food. Like, you don't know. And
and it's the money for your child, not for the mother, you know, because...
But at the same time, I think... We're going off on a tangent, but that money is supposed to... It's supposed to be for you to provide. That includes housing, that includes electricity, that includes your car, that includes everything that it takes to raise a child.
Yeah.
But when it comes to... So, going back to the money thing... Thankfully, finances, Jose and I have had a very clear understanding from kind of from the beginning. I mean, we didn't really talk about it, just like you. Yeah. Like, it was kind of uncomfortable for me.
Right. I mean, I mentioned the, like, divorce and the child because you can never be too careful.
I agree. That's why you need a secret bank account.
And that's why you need to be clear and have your money aside for any emergencies, just in case.
And that's what I'm saying. See, I say secret because for the most part, again, generalizing, if you have a joint account, a lot of times, not always, but the women that are in a relationship where the man is controlling,
it's like having the same finances.
Don't even get me started on that.
Sorry, alright, let's continue.
So if the man is controlling, he'll control everything that comes in and out. And you need to have this account that he doesn't know about. Because part of a controlling man is they control you through finances. Yes. Because they know, even if she wants to leave me, she can't.
Exactly.
She has no money. And it's a lot of money to, like, leave your life and start over. Especially if you have a kid and you're not going to get child support for a while. So, like, whatever you can, start putting it aside. But
yeah, so you would say you would recommend having separate accounts and maybe like a joint account. Like, I'm not familiar with it. Like, what would you recommend me?
Yeah, so what works for me and has worked for me is I have my own checking and savings account. Jose has his own checking and savings account. And then we have one joint house account. Okay. So in that account is how all bills to keep a roof over our head are paid. Okay. Electricity, water, what other bills are there?
Internet,
cable, all of that. Wow. So all of those bills come out of that, and we each put, I mean, you can both agree to, like, okay, I'll put 1,000, you put 1,000, or if he makes a little more, I'll put 55%, you put 45%, you both agree. And I always think, I've seen and have friends that have been like, okay, well, whatever you can this month, put in. And it brings so much trouble. Because it'll work this month, but then next month they'll be like, well, last month you only put 200. Like, don't. Like, you need to sit down and have a set amount. If you do 600 and I do 400, okay, I will always put 400, you always put 600, or whatever the amount is, or equal. We've always done equal. I'm a firm believer. If he makes more, if I make more, it doesn't matter. That's another thing that I've seen that's like, oh, whoever makes more should pay more. That's, if it works for you, cool, but it's almost like if I work harder, not necessarily that you work harder, because sometimes people work harder and make less. Right. But it's like, why do I have to pay more? I mean, it might work for you, but in our case, it's always been even. Equal. The wedding was the same. Like, I sat down, I created a budget for the wedding, and I split it down the middle. You pay half, I pay half. I paid for my own dress, he paid for his own suit, but I'm talking about just the regular wedding. And he'll be like, okay, I'll cover this, I'll cover that. But I think you should have a joint account when it comes to marriage. On not just that, but like we started one for vacation because I love to travel. So we would, when we went to Europe, we both agreed on, okay, our budget is $2,000.
Okay.
So we each put $1,000. Every single thing, as soon as we left our house that morning to go on the flight, came from that vacation account. The taxi, the Starbucks that we had, everything. And that way, it's not like, well, I paid for dinner that was $200 and you paid for a panini that was $5.
Right.
So it came out of that.
That's good. I mean, I think at the end of the day is like being fair and not taking advantage of one another, because you're partners and you gotta work it out the best way that it works out for both of you.
Keyword
you
partner.
You wanna support your partner, and your partner should support you as well.
I agree.
So as long as you have that middle ground that it works for both of you, then I think things should work out.
But you always like partnerships. We're both raised so differently that what I think is okay, he might not think is okay.
Right.
And I'll be like, why do you not think that's okay? That's definitely okay. So that's why I was very like adamant about it from the beginning. So there are no misconceptions, no misunderstandings, no wait, what? It's always fair. And now with the babies, you and I were talking about this. I have to think about it. Like, how are we going to handle expenses again? I want to be fair. And I quit my corporate job in June. And I'm like, I'm not going to be a burden. I'm not going to be a stay-at-home wife. I mean, I'm still doing projects and a lot of other things. And we have Airbnbs that we run. But I'm not like, okay, now I'm not working. You pay for everything. Nope.
Yeah.
We go out to dinner. I'll pay. We go out to dinner, he pays, like, back and forth.
Same thing. I mean, I got laid off due to COVID, and it's been hard because talking about that independency.
I know.
And now not having that income is like, shit, I don't want to rely on him. I know, like, he's supporting me now with everything, and I'm thankful. But at the same time, it's like, I don't want to feel useless.
I know.
I don't want to feel like, shit, like, now you gotta pay for my car insurance, like stuff like that. It's like, no, I gotta figure out and still paying what I'm supposed to be paying.
Yeah.
And I know if anything happens, like he has my back, but there will be an agreement that I will be paying him back.
Oh, really?
Because I don't want to be like, all right, now you pay it and I don't have to worry about it. Because I don't want to feel that
you're a burden.
That I'm a burden.
It's so funny that you say the payback, because I'm like, oh, really? But honestly, Jose and I do that. Yeah. And I think people might think it's weird, and that's okay.
No, I think it's healthy. I don't know how to say it in English, but cuentas claras.
See, I agree.
It's very important.
I agree. And I'm like, there's been places like he'll go and buy something, not little things. Like if it's like something big, he'll be like, hey, I'll pay you back for that. I'll be like, okay. Or I'll be like, hey, I'll pay you back for that. Not for like a $5 burger.
Right,
like big purchases that might just be for me, or big purchases that might just be for him. And I know some people might be like, oh, that's weird. And I'm like, okay, it works for us. Yeah. And people are like, oh, well, that's not marriage. Marriage is everything, splitting everything. Okay. Yeah. Good luck with that marriage. That's why 50%, I think it's 50% of marriages end in divorce, and a big chunk is because of finances.
It's a huge issue.
It's a big burden.
Yeah.
I keep saying burden, but it's a big, it causes a lot of conflict. That's why I think in the very beginning, you and Mike now should sit down and be like, okay, how are we going to handle finances? Mm-hmm. How are we going to handle it once we have kids? And be very transparent.
Like, have a plan.
Does he know your plan?
No,
okay.
Discuss it so we can have a plan.
Yes.
And implement it and work it out.
And there's no confusion. Mm-hmm. And that's why for us there's no confusion. Like when we buy toilet paper or when we buy detergent, it comes out of the house account. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever has to be like, oh, well, not that you would be this petty, but be like, oh, I paid for the detergent the last 10 times. We have a card that is a house account. Mm-hmm. Everything and anything that is for the running of the household comes out of that, except groceries. We take turns with groceries. Mm-hmm. But again, if I go grocery shopping, or if he does, and we're like, oh my god, I spent like $300. I'll be like, you know what? I'll give you 150, or he'll be like, I'll give you 150.
Yeah.
And it really works. Like, thankfully,
Yeah.
I mean, he's bought stuff like an Xbox that I'm like, ugh, such a waste of money, but it's his money.
Yeah.
He buys whatever he wants. Not my account. Not my problem.
Yeah.
And whatever I buy, he doesn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, he's more chill with everything than
Yeah.
I am. He would be like, okay, yeah, buy it for yourself. I'd be like, why'd you buy that? That's such a waste of money. He calls me cheap all the time. He really does. He says
It's
I'm too
not
cheap.
being cheap. I think it's being like smart.
I know. And it's because I've struggled and have gone through everything, and
Yeah.
I am the way I am. And thankfully, like, my student loans, I went to the University of Tampa, which is now it's $30,000 a year. And when I went, it was like, I think when I went, it was like $25,000 if you didn't live there. And I paid my student loans in 3.5 years. And I was very adamant. Like, everybody's like, why are you throwing all your money there? I'm like, no, like, I hate debt.
Yeah.
Okay, I just got a new car. Anybody that knows me, my car was falling apart. My window didn't go down. My AC didn't work, and it's like 100 degrees here. But I refuse. I was like, oh, I don't want to have a car payment. Like, debt freaks me out. But I'm like, hey, you need it.
Yeah.
But he was raised very different when it comes to money.
Yeah.
And I am very different, so I think it just avoids.
Yeah. And
issues.
also, you need to know your partner.
Uh-huh.
Because I think it also depends a lot on their personality and
Their spending habits.
Their habits. Because it's really hard to change somebody that likes to spend money and doesn't care about anything else.
It really is. And again, how they grew up and how they saw their home structure. So if it was like, oh no, mom stays home, dad makes all the money, and dad makes all the financial decisions. Again, like, my biggest, when I just see it. Actually, this is a perfect example. And I was telling Jose about it. I went to Bath and Body Works the other day to buy some stuff. Mm-hmm. And there was this man who was maybe in his 40s talking to, I was almost 100% sure it was his wife, how he was talking to her. And he goes, you're allowed to get 3 things. And I was like, like, I could just feel like myself, like, going, what are you talking about? Like, obviously it's not my business, but I was
but I can see you going,
I know, like, she's a child. I don't know, I mean, I don't know their financial situation. I don't know the circumstance. I don't know what it was, but he was so controlling. And then obviously when he said that, I'm watching him the whole time because now I'm like, what is happening? And then he's like, okay, you picked this set. Now, which one else? You only get 2 more. No, you can't get that one. You got it. And he was so controlling, like, the whole time. And I wanted to be like, why can't she buy whatever she wants? Again, I don't know the situation, but that is what, like, I'm terrified about. A man being like, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't really like you can have this if you do that. Like,
that's conditional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's,
Yeah, no, and the whole, like, well, I work outside of the home if you're a man, so at home, the wife needs to do all this, and that. No, I'm not. I mean, it's funny because when I always thought about having kids, I was like, yeah, I'd like to be like a stay-at-home stay-at-home mom for the first year or 2. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I don't think I could do it full time. Like, I have to still be doing, not like a corporate job maybe. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Who knows what the future holds, but not, like, I can't just be home.
Yeah.
I have to be doing projects. I have to be doing something to bring money in just to, A, for my sanity, and B, just to contribute. I feel like, it's difficult.
It is. It is because when you talk about having kids, if I want to have kids, I want to be able to raise my child.
Yeah.
Because in the society that we are living in right now, I feel like parents don't spend enough time with their child because they need to provide, and I understand it. But I see so many kids growing up in, like, daycares and not having that, like, family, like, mom giving them time. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like,
they need to work.
How long can you stay home without working?
Yeah.
And then be okay?
I know.
So.
It's hard. Sorry, guys. It's a mixture. That's why I think you have to, if you can make smart decisions in your 20s,
Yeah.
when it comes to finances, definitely do it.
All right. Sorry, I gotta
Time out.
plug in the the laptop. There we go. We don't want it to die.
So, it's been just all together. Like, we were talking, you and I were talking about this, but for example, a baby. I have to pay $2,000 for hospital bills, and then the baby's another $2,000. And it's like, how do you know who pays for that? Like, we have to talk about it, obviously, but I want to be very fair. And then, like, circumcision, that's $300. Who's gonna pay for the circumcision? Like, and it sounds simple, and it's like, well, you're both the parents, and yeah, for sure. But I also don't want to put, just because I'm not working, I don't want him to be responsible because he's already paying for our insurance. So since he's paying for our insurance, I'm paying to my gynecologist. I have to pay $300 a month until I give birth to prepay for the labor. So I'm paying that out of my money because he's already paying for our health insurance. And I think it's only fair. And I could easily be like, oh, I'm not working, you pay for everything. And he would be like, for sure, yeah, no problem. He would pay for anything and everything, but it doesn't feel right to me.
Right, and I think it would create, like, in the long run, it would create problems because if it takes a long time, he'll be like, all right, like, I'm tired.
Yeah. And he's very much like, if I ask for something, he'll buy it, but I can't ask. You know those women, they're like, oh my God, I really like that dress. Can you buy it for me? Oh, I could never. Like, I could buy it for myself. Or if I can, then I don't get it. Like, oh, can you buy me that Louis Vuitton purse? Like, yo no tengo esa gandinga. Like we say. Like, how do you, like, just sit there and tell a guy, can you buy me that $1,000 purse? Like, I wish I could be like that, but I can't.
Yeah.
And I'm
the same way with like you, and since I was able to work, I started working, and I started saving, and I started buying my own things. Instead of going to my mom and asking her, because then she would have to go ask the husband, know, and then it's like, no way, I don't want to create drama, I don't want to create problems. Let me work, and I'll figure it out.
It's also a cultural thing, though. Don't get mad at me, because some people are about to get mad at me at what I'm about to say. But I feel like in certain South American countries, you know what countries I'm talking about, the women are used to asking the men for everything. Like, papi, ¿me puedes comprar esto? Like, the woman is the trophy. She looks gorgeous. And then, you know exactly what country I'm talking about. Again, not all are the same. But I've seen it a lot where in these countries, the woman just asks and asks. Because the woman has to look beautiful and the man has to pay for it and maintain it because she's a trophy. But when you were talking about the finances, when growing up, because I was so involved with my parents' finances, fortunately and unfortunately, like, you know those kids that go to the stores and throw a tantrum when the parent doesn't buy them what they want? I never did that because I knew if I'd be like, Mommy, can you buy me this TY Beanie Baby? Which I loved back then. And if she was like, no, I can't, just send it. I knew she could not.
Exactly.
Even if she wanted to, she couldn't afford it. So I think that's why I had to mature from a young age too. And in my mind, I was like, why am I going to sit here and have a tantrum, una berreta, when I know if she could, she would buy it for me. And I was aware that if I kept pushing it, I would hurt her feelings.
Yeah.
Because imagine as a mom wanting to buy a toy for your kid and not being able to afford it.
Yeah.
And I knew, like, if she said no, it's because she doesn't have the money. Don't push it. And I never did.
Yeah.
So I don't understand these brats that are at the store, buy me this. Like, I'm like, what the heck?
I remember once I saw a kid that would bring a toy to the cart at the supermarket, like at Walmart. And if the parent took it out of the cart, the kid would start, like, flipping out.
Yeah.
So the parents had to buy the freaking toys.
Are you kidding me?
So the kid would stop crying. So it's
no, they didn't have to.
Now I feel like there is the parenting situation.
Yeah,
that
they chose to. Yeah, no. I mean, the more tantrum you throw, the least I'm gonna buy you.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna really make me not want to buy it for you. But, like, I saw my parents go through a lot when we moved from South Dakota to Tampa. We moved in 2001, right after 9/11, and they lost everything. Mm-hmm. I saw my dad, his car got repoed. Mm-hmm. And I saw my dad, a grown man, crying his eyes out. Because, I mean, that does a lot to your self-esteem, your manhood. Like, your car's being repoed in front of your family. I can't imagine what that feels like. So, from that young age, I was like, I know, like, I have to do well. Mm-hmm. I have to make smart decisions so I'm not put in these circumstances.
Yeah. So now, based on, like, your experiences and the way that you grow up, now you're gonna be a mom, mm-hmm. like, what are some of the things that you're considering doing? So, because as a parent, you always want to provide to your kids everything and anything that you can.
Yeah, not me.
But at the same time, you don't want them to feel entitled
yeah.
and not appreciate what you're giving them.
I have a saying that I always use, and it's, don't handicap your children by making their life easy. I am the way I am, thankfully, because of the hardships that I went through. If everything would have been handed to me, I don't think I would have been different how I am. Mm-hmm. So, my children, I will, and again, I don't have the baby yet, so I'm sure I'm going to eat my words once they come, and I might spoil them, but this is now. And I think I'll stick to it to an extent. I will provide everything my child needs. Mm-hmm. Wants are different. I'm sure I'll provide a lot of wants. But if you want something really expensive, you're going to have to work for it. This whole I get an allowance because I did my chores. No, I don't get paid to wash the dishes. Yeah. I don't get paid to scrub the toilet. You're not going to get paid to make your bed. You're not going to get paid to vacuum the floor. As a member of this household, you have to contribute equally. Mm-hmm. Husband, kids, wife. Now, if my kid wants to buy, let's say, a dirt bike that's expensive, I'll be like, okay, come up to me and ask me what else you can do. You can mow the lawn. You can wash the car. You can give Bali a bath. You can do other things to earn money. Yeah. But they will have basic chores from a young age. I mean,
I think that's very important.
Yeah, it teaches them about earning money. Nobody comes and hands you money just because you're breathing. Yeah. And I think when kids get an allowance just because they're breathing, you're literally setting them up for false expectations of life.
I think it's parents do it because they want to teach their kids about money and finances. But at the same time, you're just handing out the money to them.
That's not how it works in real life.
Just because.
Yeah.
And, okay, yeah, you want to teach them, but at the same time, you also have to teach them that things don't come easy. Yeah.
Half the battle is earning the money. Mm-hmm. So you're literally taking half the battle away. You're giving them the money so you can teach them how to spend it. But the hardest part is earning it. Spending it is easy. So, and thankfully Jose has the same thought process when it comes to this. Yeah. And I have friends that literally, we go out to eat and, like, their kids order, like, $60 steaks. And I'm like, what the hell is happening right now? And I get it, if it's, like, their birthday, okay, maybe. But, like, now I'm so conscious of what I order at a restaurant because I don't want to overspend. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like...
No appetizers.
Water and bread. We're good. But you're teaching your kid, like, again, that $60 steak, you worked so hard to earn those $60. Yeah. I bet you if that kid mows grass for $5, washes car for $2, will not order a $60 steak if they have to pay it.
On the expenses.
Yeah. It teaches them how to earn it and how to spend it, and I want my kids to hopefully be financially savvy. And the lessons that I've learned, I don't want to necessarily have them go through the same thing, but I want to create lessons out of my lessons.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, with this, we don't want to tell you how to raise your kids and how much you should give them or should not give them. It's our opinions, and hopefully it helps you to see another spectrum, another perspective that maybe it'll click, because maybe your parents had money and they provided everything for you and whatever, everything went great. But also, you need to see, like, the other side and consider it.
Yep. And the whole, a lot of immigrant parents give their kids everything because they want them to have what they could never have.
Yeah.
And although I do agree with that, at the same time, I think you're doing them a disservice because you're taking the lessons out of it. I think the most important thing you can teach your kid is to be independent and self-reliant and a critical thinker. Like,
Yeah.
I want this dirt bike. How do I get it?
Yeah.
What do I need to do to get it? Just handing them the dirt bike, honestly, when the parents say, I want to give my kid everything I never had, you're actually fulfilling selfishly. Like, you think you're going to be a good parent because you're giving them. So you're really doing it for yourself, not necessarily just for the kids. So I think the lesson is worth more than you making yourself feel better.
Exactly.
So
I think in the long run, it's going to be better for everyone.
Yeah. But that's, we talked a lot today. Touched a lot of subjects. Let us know what you guys think. Do you feel the same way as us? How did growing up in your family culture affect your thoughts and feelings about money and kids and money? So we hope you liked it.
Yeah. So thank you for listening and watching.
Yes.
And we'll see you next Tuesday.
See you well, that kind of sounds bad. See you next Tuesday. See you next episode.
Bye.